Hi, I'm Phil Bainbridge, and this is a quick tutorial video for the blog posts connecting to the Zoom OAuth app. So I've got a copy of the files here, and what I'm aiming to do with this is to connect my Google Apps Script web app to my Zoom account so that I can get an authorization token, which will then allow me to continue using the Zoom API to either get my profile information or create meetings, for instance. So this video is about getting that access token and getting up and running with Zoom OAuth. Here's the app script code itself, which is detailed in the blog post. The main function that runs is this do-get, which triggers when a user visits the web app, from which we can look at getting an authorization code back from that. We can then feed that authorization code into a function called getToken, which if I scroll down here, is where this bit belongs. Now, this is where we enter some details which we generate when we create the Zoom OAuth app, and we'll go through some authentication, the end result of which is an access token that we can use going forwards. What I've done is I've linked this to a Google Sheet so that the results are put into the cells here, just so you can visually see what's happening, but also might be what you use to then go ahead and create your Zoom meetings in subsequent functions. So there's a couple of things that we need to fill out first. The first one is we need to turn this into a web app. So to do that, we're going to go to deploy at the top right, and we're going to go to new deployment. Now, make sure your select type here is web app. So when you click on the settings there, you can choose the web app option. I'm not going to enter any descriptive information for this because it's just a tutorial, but I'm going to execute the web app as myself and only give myself access to it. That's just because I'm the one testing it at this point in time. So if I click deploy, what I'll get is I'll get a bit of an access authorization request. This is so it's happy to use my Google account. Okay, and then from here, we get a URL. Now it's useful at this point to make a copy of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of it and just put it into a notepad file. Okay, so in the notepad file there, I'm going to make use of it. So if we click on done, what we've got then, if we scroll down, is one of these sections here is to enter the URL of that web app that we've just created. Now, if you follow the instructions, I do suggest that you change the end of the URL to something like user callback. So if we change that and take a copy of it, if we pop that in there now, so that's one of the items that we need to fill in. Let's go now to the Zoom Marketplace and create an OAuth app. So if I click on create, this is just a test one, which I'm going to be deleting straight after this demo. I want a user managed app because I want it to be installed by individuals for them to access their own Zoom accounts only. So I don't want to publish it or anything. So there's a few bits of information here that we can copy straight away. The client ID. So if I copy that, and back in the app script, I'm going to paste the client ID in there. And the other one is the client secret. I'm going to copy that again and paste that in there. As I say, I'm going to delete all of this once I've finished, so I don't mind that showing up in the video. The next thing we get is the redirect URL for OAuth. Now that's the link to the web app, which is actually one we've just created a moment ago down here. So what I want to do is I want to copy all of that and paste it into there. And then we need to whitelist it as well. So basically, we're just going to put the same thing in there. If we click continue, you're going to need to fill out a few bits of information in here. Again, I'm just going to do this as a bit of a test. Click continue. I'm not going to subscribe to any event subscriptions. Scopes, we'll add a couple of scopes in here that are useful. So this is when we get the actual access token and we want to do stuff with the API, this allows us to define our scopes and what parameters we can use. So if I want to be able to view and manage my meetings, I'll tick those options. I might also want to be able to access my user profile. So we'll click done. You can come back in and add and remove them into the Zoom app when you want. If I click on continue, there's just one piece of information I'm missing there, and that's the long description. So you would put something more meaningful in here. If I go back to activation. Okay, so I'm ready to install the app. So I get a really long install URL there, which is the first URL that it's the URL we want to visit that will ultimately trigger this script to run here and for our do-get to work. There is a point to note here. We've made a couple of changes to this app script at this point, which means we need to save it and redeploy it. Every time we make a change with a web app, you need to redeploy it. So if I click the save button, and if I go back to deployments, new deployments, it's quite quick to do. You would put a description in as and when you're changing things, but I'm just going to hit deploy there. That means it's ready to go with the latest code. The URL doesn't change, so we can continue. So if I go back to the marketplace now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the install button. So what this is going to do is it's going to connect me to the Zoom app. Obviously, I'm going to get some authentication the first time I do it. I've made sure that I'm logged into Zoom already at this point in time with my account, so I'm not going to get any login screens. And I get a success message. So if I go to the app, we go back to the Apps Script code, there is a quick check in here that if I get an access token, then display one of two messages, a success or a fail. But as I mentioned, I linked this to a Google Sheet so that it was easy for you to see if you were successful. So there we go. I captured two things. First is the authorization code that you get when you visit the web app URL. And then from that, you get given back an access token, which you can use for up to 1 hour. So this, in some subsequent blog posts, is what we'll use to then get our user profile information or create some meetings. Thank you very much.